Applejack and Rainbow Dash both perked up at the sight of Twilight's bed, their conversation forgotten. Your leadership is in shambles. I have crippled your defense. Your populace is in panic. And I have not even arrived yet. You have no hope of survival against my armies. But I am not a cruel pony. Surrender yourselves now onto my mercy, and I'll make sure justice finds you swiftly. You have 1 hour. For a moment, the ponies stood waiting for more. When it was clear that the message ended, Applejack looked at her friends. Who the hey is Trixie? Twilight and Rainbow Dash exchanged glances, but it was Twilight who began speaking first. She was a traveling show pony who liked to brag about her power. She sighed. Seems like some things never change. Looks like she's got the bite to back up her bark this time, though. Rainbow Dash put a hoof to her chin in thought. You know, Twi, you showed her up once before. I bet you could... No way, Rainbow Dash. Not like this. If my powers ever come back, it won't be within the next hour. Twilight's black eyes glimmered in the light, white barely visible around the edges. I think there's only one obvious course of action now. I hear you, Twi. We're the closest thing New Ponyville has to leaders, until Rarity comes around. We need to be of one mind in this. Applejack nodded to her friend, grateful for common sense being shown. No question about it. Rainbow Dash hopped in the air, pumping her heeled hoof to the ceiling. We'll show those royal guards how New Ponyville ponies act. Then it settled. Twilight smiled in relief. We'll begin the evacuation immediately. Whoa, hold on a tick there. That ain't what I was saying at all. Applejack stomped her hoof, stopping the unicorn mid-thought. We have to just begin shoring up our defenses before that Trixie pony gets here. She's practically here, AJ. Rainbow Dash fluttered in infuriation. We need to have an attack ready for her before she has a chance to attack us. Attack? Are you mad, Rainbow Dash? Twilight was becoming flustered quickly. We don't have anything to attack with, especially since it's an army of magic users. Our only chance is to pull back and seek out the resistance. The resistance? Twi, I don't even know where they are. And who's to say Trixie won't just hunt us down the road? Applejack shook her head, trying to make her friend see the obvious solution. If we blockade the town and wait out the siege, we can hold out until our unicorns are back on their hooves. Then we might stand a chance of fighting, or escaping. No! Twilight pounded the bed with her hooves, the illogical thoughts of her friends driving her mad. How are we going to wait out a siege when our supplies are so low? We'll starve to death within days. Exactly, chimed in Rainbow Dash. So, we don't give them the chance to set up a siege. We've got a perfect cover of darkness, with the night ending right now. A few Pegasus ponies can fly low and find them, then drop torches on their supplies. Rainbow Dash slammed one hoof down, and the other for emphasis. With a swift attack on priority targets, their entire force will be crippled before they have a chance to do us any harm. Why, that's the most insane idea I ever heard. Well, we can't just run and hide. The resistance. Stupid, desperate attack idea. The only logical solution. As the room descended into chaos, the great clock ticked away in the corner, the time hurrying away, unnoticed. Trixie turned back towards the captain after her horn had returned to a merely illuminating glow, instead of blindingly. Thank you for your help, Captain. She smirked down at the shuttlebolt. Now, for your final role in my plans. Warrant officer, you're instructing the men how to reach New Ponyville? Yes, ma'am. I didn't even see the little bugger arrive that time, thought the captain. Good. Then I must leave to make my report. It would be a shame if one of our patrols were attacked just outside the entrance to the rebel base, wouldn't it? Trixie grinned, but the face of her second-in-command remained impassive. No, ma'am. It would be exactly what you were planning. Trixie's shoulders slumped. Warrant officer, you have the subtlety of a pair of scissors. I'll make this simple for you. She leaned in close to the trembling pony, her voice dripping malevolence. Take the captain and the other 4 ponies. Kill her in front of New Ponyville and make the scene look realistic. Understood? The tiny pony nodded energetically, not daring to speak another word to his mistress so close to his face. Good, Trixie said, backing off of the officer. Now, Captain, did you have any last words? The captain considered her options, but nothing sprang to mind. Shrugging her shoulders, she did her best to look unconcerned as she looked up at Trixie. Yeah, your white hair makes you look old. She was rewarded with an indignant snort from Trixie before she felt something hit the back of her head. Her world exploded into bright colors as she felt herself hit the ground. Worth it, she thought, as she was dragged limply into the darkness. Despite everything, she couldn't help smiling. I might die, she thought to herself. But, with a warning like that, New Ponyville can stay alive to spite Trixie longer. Rainbow Dash, wait! No, Twilight, I'm done. Rainbow Dash's wings stood at full length, her front legs lowered aggressively as she faced her 2 friends. We've been arguing in circles for forever, while our opportunity slips by. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to help save this town. Hold on, Sugar Cube, you can't just... Slam! The door to Rarity's bedroom shook with the force of Dash's kick, but he didn't even notice. She stomped her way down the stairs, the clopping hoofs sounding steps helping her vent her anger. They're both stupid, she fumed. We don't have time to talk. We've got to take action. Sounds began to make their way through her clouded head, and she raised her glance to see a throng of ponies outside the ruined door. A few of them had trickled inside, but with nothing to knock on, their cries were going unheard. They seemed confused and lost. Seeing Rainbow Dash, however, a chorus of yells began to assault Dash's ears. Dash scanned back and forth, her skill with performances of large crowds letting her read them almost at a glance. The emotions varied. Some ponies cried out in anger, while other ponies pleaded for an explanation. Mostly, though, Dash could sense fear. These ponies were living a nightmare, and just wanted something to cling to. Dash smiled. I've just the thing. Dash forced her way out of the door, only a few ponies not making way for her willingly. Once she had room for her, she leapt into the air and motioned for attention. The crowd gradually fell silent as she looked down at them, and finally began to speak. I'm not good at this sort of thing, so I'll keep it quick, she said simply. There's an army of unicorns out there. We don't know how big they are, and they want to kill us. Rainbow Dash knew this was going to catch flack for this later on from both Twilight and Applejack, but she just didn't care about them right now. Rarity's unconscious, and we can't decide what to do. The crowd erupted, anger and confusion crashing in waves over the ponies below Dash. Floating high above them, Dash's face remained impassive. Right now, the motions on the floor are arguing and more arguing, so I'm taking some action. Effective immediately, we're at war. The crowd mumbled, no pony terribly surprised by the announcement. Those of you young ones, stay at home. Those of you who can't fight, stay at home. Those of you with the will to save this town... Dash paused for effect, one of the few verbal theatrical tricks she knew. Follow me. Dash landed in the middle of the crowd, which had grown silent. Calmly, she began walking through the town center. After a few steps, her ears picked up another set of hooves walking behind her. Not daring to turn her head in fear of her hopes being crushed, she walked towards the town gate. The sound of hooves in her stead growing slowly, but growing nonetheless. You blasted idiot! You can't possibly think that would... I reckon it's a better idea than those fools' thoughts running in your head, You... Applejack and Twilight screamed at each other, each of their words going unheeded by the other pony. To both, there was only one obvious answer, and neither was about to let New Ponyville suffer because some foal couldn't see the light. The clock in the corner ticked on, punctuating every angry point with another lost moment in time. While the yelling wasn't doing anything to budge either pony, it was having another effect. Forgotten by both ponies, Rarity's eyes fluttered in her sleep. She drew in breath sharply and let it out in a long sigh, unnoticed by the flustered mares. A few moments later, her eyes scrunched up in irritation. Groaning loudly, she opened her eyes and glared angrily at the ceiling. "Excuse me, dears," she said conversationally. Immediately, all noise in the room ceased except for the slow ticking of seconds, several of which went by before Rarity spoke again. "I've not only had the most terrible dream, but I also had the most horrible night, followed by the most horrible headache of my life. I don't know why you thought that my bedroom would be a good place for this tiff, but I can assure you that it's not. Now get out!" Rarity closed her eyes and took a deep breath, waiting for the sound of retreating hoofsteps. Her head felt like Applejack had bucked it a few times, and she wanted nothing more to do than crawl up into a ball and die from the pain. So when the two hugs managed to tackle her from lying down position, she was less than amused. "Get off me! Are you both quite mad?" Rarity sputtered and flailed weakly, her head pounding. To make matters worse, every time she opened her eyes, it felt like she was looking into the sun. "I said get out, not jump on me!" The weight lifted from her chest, and the two ponies erupted into frenzied speech. Both the throbbing of Rarity's head drowned out their words. "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" Rarity's voice ended in a shriek. The room elapsed into blessed silence. When she squinted her eyes, Rarity could make out the faces of Twilight and Applejack around the glare of the room. She knew that they looked scared and desperate, but she was in no mood to coddle any pony. "If you absolutely insist on keeping me awake, then go fetch me a glass of water, at least." The clock ticked away, the seconds passing in time with her headache throbs. "And someone break that damn clock!" "Here you go, Rarity." Twilight handed her her own untouched cup of water to the angry mayor. Rarity kept her eyes closed as she used her magic to raise the cup to her lips, taking big gulps of nothing. "Huh?" Rarity opened one eye to look at the offered cup suspiciously, which was still held loosely in Twilight's hoof. "It's... my magic... what?" Twilight slowly lowered the cup as Rarity sputtered, looking guiltily at Applejack. "Rarity, there's some things we need to tell you." Rarity could see the purple face screwed up in confusion, and drew in a gasp as she noticed Twilight's eyes. "You've been unconscious for the better part of a day." Day had fallen over the Everfree forest, and the heavy darkness that came with it weighed on the captain's shoulders. Before the light faded, she had recognized a certain large boulder and a fallen tree, and judging by how long she had been walking since then, she knew she was beginning to near New Ponyville. Her wings were cramped, but she could feel the magical bonds that kept her from flexing them. Her hooves plodded ahead nearly blindly, the weak yellow light from the warrant officer's horn giving the group of 6 barely enough light to step ahead of their hooves. The ponies surrounded the captain on each side, and without her wings there was no opportunity to escape. Her eyes narrowed at the diminutive warrant officer. "He's an oaf and a fool," she told herself. "I'm sure he'll screw up eventually. I'm sure." Rainbow Dash stood looking at the blank rock in front of her. Waning torchlight sharpened her silhouette on the wall. Her figure was not alone, though, however, as she turned to face the crowd who had followed her to the town exit. Her heart sank as she looked at their volunteers, a ragtag group of villagers. She sighed inwardly, armed with torches and rocks. Still, we'll never have an opportunity like this again. Only two figures stood out in the crowd, literally raising his head and shoulders above most ponies. Two red stallions, one of who wore the familiar face of Big Macintosh, and another who wore a construction hat, stood grimly faced as they looked towards their new leader. Gulping, Rainbow Dash tried to put on a show of confidence. "I'm not going to make a speech, if that's what you're wondering," she said eventually. "But before we go out there, just know that you don't have to do this." Rainbow Dash scanned the crowd for hesitation, and found far too much of it. "If you aren't willing to die tonight, now's the time to leave." She knew she would lose support with that statement, but she still winced inwardly when ponies began to step back. First a blue earth pony, then a dazed-looking unicorn, and then another earth pony slowly turned and disappeared back towards the tunnel, their sense of self-preservation outweighing their shame. When all was said and done, less than half a dozen ponies stood before her, including two immovable red stallions. The other three ponies consisted of two female guard pegasi and a gray colt. Dash's heart sank a bit more when she recognized the old gray coat as Billy Gruff, the gate operator. "Fine then, including myself." Dash sighed. She had known what she was getting into beforehand. Maybe I should just turn around before some pony gets killed. The image of Twilight and Applejack yelled back and forth over Rarity's unconscious form came to mind, however, and Dash shook her head clearly. "No, I don't have time to second-guess myself. It doesn't matter if this is a good or bad decision. We have to try." "This is not a suicide mission," she said to herself, as much as to the ponies before her. "This is a strategic strike. You two and I," she pointed a hoof at the guards, "will fly low and quiet with torches. This is the only entrance that the Shadow Bolt captain knew about, so they should be on or near the path leading here. Steal what food you can, and burn the rest." The guards nodded together, and Dash turned towards the two stallions. "You two have a dangerous job," she smiled, knowing that Big Mac wouldn't mind at the slightest. "You're going to be the first taking flak for us. Hit them hard, make some noise, and distract them long enough for us to get the job done, and then hightail it back here. Assume they already know the way in, so no need to hide your tracks." Big Mac and the other pony turned towards each other, grinning at their assessment. Dash nodded towards Billy Gruff, who took out a pipe and grabbed the crank. "Okay, fillies and gentle colts." Dash grinned and spread her wings as the door began to swing aside. "Let's do this." Rarity listened to the two ponies in front of her. Her head still throbbed, but she found that she could keep it down to manageable levels by simply keeping her eyes closed. Applejack and Twilight had to remain calm while explaining their situation, or else watch the face of their friend screw up in pain and anger. And in between the lack of supplies and any military strength, I believe that we have to evacuate New Ponyville, finished Twilight, glad to finally have the chance to explain her stance thoroughly. Rarity nodded but remained silent. After a few moments of careful thought, she spoke softly. "I don't like it, Twilight. And the ponies here won't either. But you are right. We don't have enough food to last more than a day or two under siege." "Now wait a second there, Sugar Cube." Rarity flinched at the volume of the objection, and Applejack hesitated. It was hard to be angry while saying anything above a whisper hurt your friend. Sorry. I meant to say that we have to stay here. New Ponyville is a defendable location, and I'm sure with strict rationing, we can hold out until our unicorns have recovered." "To what purpose, Applejack?" Twilight interjected. "Most unicorns only have a little bit of magic related to their special talent, but the Royal Guard has been trained for combat. Even with our powers back, we won't be able to fight them. We'll stand more of a chance here than in the open. We can't just run away with our tails between our legs." Is this about pride? Applejack, you can't... Girls, please! Rarity had to yell over both ponies, her head swelling painfully. Damn alcohol and that damn Trixie, she grumbled to herself. I'm the leader of New Ponyville, my dears. Let's not forget that. She paused for a moment to let her headache subside, then continued. Applejack, if we stay here, we will die. There is little doubt in my mind about that. If we run into the resistance, there is at least a chance that they will take us in. No, wait. Rarity, you can't risk the lives of every pony on a gamble like that. Control your voice, Applejack. Please, look at this logically. By staying here, we risk everything on the ability of our unicorn villagers to fight off an army on empty bellies. By leaving, we risk everything on our ability to run and hide long enough for us to find the ponies who can fight. Applejack, you've told me in the past that the resistance is somewhere in the Everfree Forest, right? Well, yeah, but... Then it's settled. We'll begin preparations immediately. Twilight's heart soared. She's finally being practical. Her thoughts were practically giddy, and she realized that she had been afraid of Rarity making another poor decision based on the vague concept of generosity. Whatever had happened to the unicorn the day before and in her dreams, Twilight couldn't help but be grateful for it, twisted though it may seem. Please, Rarity, think this through! Applejack appeared to be near panic, something that was a surprise to Twilight. She's always been stubborn, she thought in confusion, but not like this. She actually seems scared. Applejack's eyes were wide as she looked towards the prone figure of Rarity on the bed. Her legs visibly trembled, even just standing still. And when she spoke, her voice sounded like it was holding back tears. Rarity, Twilight, please. We have to stay here. Just trust me. Alarm bells went off in Twilight's head. Applejack, what do you know that you aren't telling us? Twilight's ebon eyes narrowed suspiciously, but Applejack couldn't wilt any more beneath her gaze. Now, Twilight, I know she's not taking this well, but there's no reason to accuse her. Rarity cut off as she looked towards the orange pony. Something was obviously wrong, and Applejack looked like a cornered animal as her gaze shot back and forth between each pony. Please, just listen to me. Applejack pleaded, taking a step back. It's suicide to leave the safety of New Ponyville. We'll never find the resistance. We have to try, Applejack. Twilight pressed. She was getting tired of listing the same arguments over and over again. But she was also sick and tired of her friends hiding things from her. Unless you have something else you'd like to tell us... Applejack looked back and forth between the two ponies, both glaring at her. I'm sorry. She collapsed to her knees as sobs escaped her mouth. I couldn't think of what else to do. I just had to do something. I had to help somehow. Rarity's already white face paled. Applejack, you didn't. What? What? Twilight looked back and forth, still not understanding. What did you do, Applejack? Stifling a sob, Applejack looked up at her friend pitifully. I lied, Twilight. I lied to every pony. Her eyes pleaded for forgiveness. She knew she didn't deserve. There is no resistance.